Hello everyone and welcome to the IELTS Class 101 brought to you by Uniweb Educations, and this is the second lectures in this series. In the prior video I talked to you about 5 general tips on how to manage your times during your IELTS examinations, particularly in your reading sections. So if you haven't watched that video, please go through that videos and later on you can come to this videos. And today I'll be talking about the implementation parts of the prior video. So a common approach to answer the questions on the reading sections is to read the entire passage first and then answer the questions later on. So if you are a fast learner, if you can retain the informations in your mind, and whenever you go through the questions, if you can locate the informations whatever you read while skimming the paragraph, I highly recommend you to go through the first approach. So but through my personal experience, most of the students are not familiar, are not comfortable with the first approach. So my favorite approach, and I highly recommend you to take this approach, and you need a lot of practice for this approach. I promise you need a lot of practice for this approach. And the common ways and steps for this approach is to preview the questions first, summarize the paragraph, look the supporting words and sentence, answering the questions. So rather than explaining you all the steps, I'll show you a demo on implementations part of this rule number second. So let's preview the questions at the very first. So previewing the questions, what does it does is you'll just get an idea on what informations you have to look for and where to look for. So let's read this. Choose the correct heading for paragraph B, C, E, and F from the list. So let's read B paragraph. The first thing is to preview the questions, which we already did, and let's summarize the paragraph. However, okay, here's a contradictory word introduced. However, so there's a possible chance that something has already been told in the first paragraph, and the second paragraph is contradicting upon the statements that is presented in the first paragraph. So let's read the first paragraph, first sentence. And if you remember, I already told you that most of the general idea or the main idea, the topic sentence, or the central idea on what the paragraph will be talking about is located at the very beginning of the sentences. Most of the time, 90% of the chances that it is located at the very beginning of the paragraph. However, expansions of our vocabulary is just one element involved in how and why language evolves. So before deciding what the central idea is, let's go through the keywords here. The keywords are expansion and our vocabulary, just one element, and the evolutions of language. What this first sentence is talking about is the expansions of vocabulary is just one element involved in the evolutions of a language. It means there are possible other factors that is affecting the language evolutions, and the fact of vocabulary just being one of the several factors that involves or that affects the language evolution. So let's find a suitable heading for that. Historical acceptance of change. It's not talking about the acceptance of change. So generation gap, it's not talking about the generation gap. Influence on speech. Okay, it might be a possible options because speech and influence on speech might be one of the factors involved in the language evolutions. So I may not be correct, but let's go through the other options and find out whether this option is suitable or not. Ancient writing in Asia. So it's not talking about the writings in Asia or not. It's talking about the language evolutions and the factors affecting it. Cultural evolution and its impact. Okay, it's talked about cultural evolutions and its impact on a language. So it's not about impact on a language, but the evolution of language. So it's not the options. It was a good options, but it's not. So the B is not about the impact on the languages. Slang accepted in the future. So it's not about the language being accepted. And the questioning the logic. I don't know what this is, but certainly this is not what B is about. Span of vocabulary. So not the lifespan of a vocabulary. So the possible option would be, the suitable option would be influence on speech. So let's find a suitable heading for C. Changes. Okay. Now let's find a keywords for C before determining what the topic sentence the main idea is. Changes in languages are often driven by young, and many such changes are commonly considered by older people to be disintegrations of standard rather than an evolution or an improvement. So the idea is the language being driven by young people or young generations, I assume, and commonly considered by older people being an disintegrations of standard rather than being an evolution or an improvement. So it's talking about how older peoples are not accepting the modern way of changes in our languages. So let's find a suitable heading for the paragraph C. Okay, the generation gap might be a suitable heading for the paragraph C, I assume. Okay. I already went through all the options, so I found generation gap being the most suitable options here. Okay, let's move on to paragraph E. Some people believe that the traditional uses of languages are always more superior and refined than modern variations, even when the reasons behind the rules were dubious in the first place. So let's look at the keywords here. Traditional language, traditional use. Okay, let me highlight this properly. Okay, traditional use being superior and refined, modern variation, and the rules being dubious. So these are the keywords here. Traditional uses of a language being more superior than the modern variations, and the variations that causes and the rules for these variations being dubious. So let's find a suitable heading for this. Historical acceptance of change, no. Ancient writing, cultural evolution and its impact on language, no. Slang accepted in the future, no. Questioning logic. So okay, it might be a suitable options here, because questioning the logic means questioning the rule, and the rule being dubious. So we already got what this paragraph will be talking about. It's talking about modern variations and the rule for those variations being dubious. So it's already questioning the rules. So so 7 might be a suitable heading for paragraph E. So let's move on to F. So here is our final paragraph, and at the very beginning, let's go through the first sentence and look at the keywords here. As languages evolve, changes in grammar structures which could result in the confusions of the actual meaning of the sentences are unlikely. However, the meaning of the words are often modified or altered beyond recognitions by different generations and can easily misinterpreted by other social groups. So let's language evolution, and then grammar structures, and then meaning of the sentence. Okay, it's not confusion, being unlikely, and words being modified or altered and being misinterpreted, easily misinterpreted. So what the sentence is telling us is that evolutions of a language and the confusions brought by those evolutions upon the grammatical structures is really unlikely, but the modifications on the words or any kind of alterations of a words are likely to be misinterpreted by a number of people. So, is it talking about historical acceptance of a change? No, it's not talking about historical acceptance of the change. Generation gap, no influence, no already done ancient writing in Asia, no cultural evolution, no slang accepted in the future, no questioning logic, no lifespan. So, uh, I couldn't find a suitable heading, so let's try out the trick number two. So look for the supporting words or sentences. So let's try out this in this video. So in the modern version of the word bad being great, okay, it's talking about the acceptance as bad being great. And many slang words dated in the era in which they are developed. For example, so words like to beef, meaning to complain in entities, are not only dated but may not be understood in the okay, may not be understood in the modern context. Means it's talking about the life expectancy of a vocabulary. While okay, here is another supporting sentence here. While others such as a guy become absorbed into the mainstream. Okay, it's definitely talking about life expectancy of a vocabulary, because words such as to beefs are already outdated and may not be understood in the modern context, whereas words such as guy is easily absorbed, easily is prominent within the modern society and easily accepted by most of the peoples and is considered in the mainstream of a language. So it's talking about the life expectancy of a vocabulary. So here you go. So these some general tips on time management and to be more efficient in your IELTS examination. So in the next lectures, I'll be talking about more on finding supporting words and sentences, and more on how to go through the yes no not given questions and this fill in the blanks. So till then, see you again. Stay tuned. If you like this video, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down, and please provide us the feedback. And if you have any advice on the topic of the videos we should be covering on, please write down in the comment. Till then, bye bye and practice IELTS.